the sort of Mad Libs headline that you just get every day with Donald Trump in the White House. Justice Department official says she was fired after opposing restoring Mel Gibson's gun rights. What? I didn't want to have to think about Mel Gibson today, but now I do and you do. And we have to think about Mel Gibson wielding a gun, which is the worst sort of Mel Gibson, I think. So this is the pardon attorney, or the former pardon attorney for the DOJ, apparently was dismissed just one day after she refused to recommend that gun rights be restored to actor Mel Gibson after he pleaded guilty to a domestic violence charge. So this is Elizabeth Oyer. She did an interview with the New York Times and said that she was not given a reason for her termination, but that it came on the heels of her decision regarding the actor who pleaded guilty back in 2011 to misdemeanor battery of his ex-girlfriend. And she says, this is Elizabeth, not the ex-girlfriend. This is dangerous. This isn't political. This is a safety issue, and it very much is. So individuals convicted of domestic violence crimes are barred by federal law from owning firearms, because we know that like the single biggest correlation that helps to predict someone who's going to kill a partner is someone who has been committing domestic violence already against them. And if they have a gun, again, way more likely to actually end up killing someone. Now, I can't say, I don't know Mel Gibson. I can't say that he would necessarily, but that's why that prohibition is there. And it has undoubtedly saved lives. But Mel Gibson is rich. Mel Gibson is famous and well connected. And I guess that trumps these considerations. And so let's talk a little bit about how we got here. Oyer had a list of 95 people under consideration for having their gun rights restored. Okay, in many cases, the convictions were decades old, and the people in question were deemed to be at low risk for recidivism. So some of these, you can make the case, probably would be fine if they had their gun rights restored. But after the list was submitted, Trump's former personal attorney apparently asked her to add Gibson's name to the list of those like sort of less concerning individuals. So they had that, and then all of a sudden she's asked to do Mel Gibson specifically. She said, they sent it back to me saying, we would like you to add Mel Gibson to this memo. A letter from Gibson's lawyer seeking the restoration of the actor's gun rights was attached. Oyer refused and soon received a phone call from an official in Todd Blanche, Trump's former personal attorney's office, saying, he then essentially explained to me that Mel Gibson has a personal relationship with President Trump, and that should be sufficient basis for me to make a recommendation, and that I would be wise to make the recommendation. The next day, she showed up at work and received a letter informing her of her termination. So look, we have to be responsible and be like, we don't know for sure why she was fired, but what games are we playing? We know why she was fired. Mel Gibson is rich and he knows Donald Trump. The law is irrelevant. These personal relationships to the Don are all that matters. She stood in the way of that, and that's certainly why she was fired. And just for context, remember, Mel Gibson is also the special ambassador to Hollywood that Donald Trump appointed. And I'm sure everyone in Hollywood's super excited about that, although regrettably some of them actually are. And in 2006, he was arrested for a DUI. So this is 5 years before the conviction over the battery. When he was pulled over, he went on an anti-Semitic tirade about the effing Jews and blamed them for all the wars in the world. And if you want to ruin your day, I want you to track down the audio of the messages he left on his ex's, I believe it was a voicemail recording system, where he went off on rants about how he hopes that she gets raped by a pack of N-words, and how when he comes home, she should instantly be blowing him. And it gets worse from there. But this is the deranged person that they think needs to have a gun, like immediately. You can't stop this guy from having a gun. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, as well as the fact that a career professional lost their job because they didn't do Donald Trump's friend a solid, Trey. But what do you think?
I mean, I think the wildest part is considering the fact, what I believe is the fact, that most dudes who fit the kind of archetype of Mel Gibson, as you just described him, in this country, totally own a gun. So in terms of, like, so we don't, you know what I mean? Like, so many people have, so many guys like Mel go out of their way to have guns and feel very entitled to them, and it's a freaky thing to think about. So I'm not surprised that he feels that way. And I guess from that perspective, I could see why he and his deranged mind would think that it's unfair. He's like, hey, all the other lunatic assholes get to have a gun, but it's different when I want one. So I don't know. And as far, I don't, the Hollywood ambassador thing, I don't know what he's doing yet. I don't know just how influential he's been, but there's been things that have happened, like Disney Plus is working on some new series where there was going to be a trans character in it, and they've rewritten that trans character into like a straight Christian character or something like that. They also canceled a planned Tiana series. Tiana's from the Princess and the Frog, the only black Disney princess.
Yeah.
The series planned for her, and they've canceled that. So maybe Mel's gotten to Disney or whatever. I'm sure it's just the overcorrecting in the wake of the election.
Probably.
Everybody's so afraid of wokeness, but could be Mel ambassadoring. Either way, no, he doesn't need a gun, but I'm not surprised that he's going to get one back, and that a woman was collateral damage in the process.
Exactly. Yeah. No. 100%. The next of many. But yeah, look. Just again, this is not how a government's supposed to run. Like, you're not supposed to lose your job because you uphold the law. It's up to her to make these recommendations. By the way, he could still do the pardon. It's not like she has to sign off on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I also want you to sign off on it. I want it to look like it's a legitimate thing. That's the sort of, this is mob boss stuff. That's all it is. Can you imagine if Biden was like ordering Merrick Garland, like, hey, Alec Baldwin, he had an issue with a gun. Yeah, go protect him. Protect him from all these legal consequences. Like, that's not how any of this is supposed to work. When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?